We got to start out with something light because this really warmed my heart and it was really insanely funny. Really insanely funny to me. So, of course, the question was, is CNN or MSNBC going to air Bernie Sanders' speech about democratic socialism? I mean, they aired almost in full Joe Biden's Make America America Again speech. Did you see that doozy? So Joe Biden was in Iowa yesterday, and CNN had it, they're trying to push this narrative. They're trying to push the race as between Biden and Trump. They're basically trying to prop up Biden. That's what CNN's doing. That's what MSNBC is doing. So I was like, kind of surprised that CNN aired any of Bernie Sanders' speech. To be honest with you, by my count, they actually aired 9 minutes and 50 seconds, so almost 10 minutes of Bernie Sanders' speech. But what was hysterical was where they decided to cut out of it. Because unlike Joe Biden's speech, which they aired almost in full in Iowa, they cut out of Bernie Sanders' speech after 10 minutes. But you're going to love where they decided to cut out of Bernie Sanders' speech. Take a guess. If you see a theme that Bernie Sanders is talking about that CNN, owned by AT&T, might not like.
But in America today, the very rich live on average 15 years longer than the poorest Americans. In 2014, for example, in McDowell County, West Virginia, one of the poorest counties in the nation, life expectancy for men was 64 years. In Fairfax County, Virginia, a wealthy county, just 350 miles away, life expectancy for men was nearly 82 years, an 18-year differential. The life expectancy gap for women in the two counties was 12 years. In other words, the issue of unfettered capitalism is not just an academic debate. Poverty, economic distress, and despair are life-threatening issues for millions of working people in this country. While the rich get richer, they live longer lives. While poor and working families struggle economically and often lack adequate health care, their life expectancy is declining for the first time in modern American history. Taken together, the American dream of upward mobility.
All right, so Senator Bernie Sanders, listening to him giving this speech here, he said it a couple of years ago when he was running the last go round, and he's doubling down again. He's basically saying, America is ready to elect a democratic socialist. So let's analyze all things Bernie Sanders. David Chalian is CNN's political director. MJ Lee is CNN's political correspondent. And David, just first to you, what did you think of the message that we listened to so far? And
oh, God. Can you imagine? Let me tell you how it went. Okay? Because I used to work at MSNBC. I used to work at Fox News. I know how these things go. So Brooke Baldwin over there, she's got an executive producer in her ear. As soon as Bernie started talking about unfettered capitalism, the executive producer's like, get out of this. No. Get out. Next time he pivots to something else, out. Because, CNN, owned by AT&T, they don't want to air too much of that because, unfettered capitalism is kind of companies like AT&T. Cut the commercial. So it's just unbelievable. They'll air Joe Biden's full speech. Joe Biden's infamous Make America America Again. This is what Joe Biden said yesterday. His speech said a whole lot of nothing. Didn't attack corporations, didn't challenge Wall Street, didn't challenge anything. CNN will air it in full. You give Donald Trump $3 billion of airtime, we're going to give Joe Biden as much airtime as he humanly wants. He's going to say a whole lot of nothing. He's going to throw out platitudes, and we will air every single last second of it. But as soon as Bernie Sanders starts talking about unfettered capitalism, the greed, oligarchy, we got to get out of that immediately. So I just thought that was interesting. So now that we got CNN being a propaganda outlet out of the way and cutting out of the speech when Bernie Sanders talked about unfettered capitalism, I want to play a few parts of the speech that to me, stood out. And again, we're going to have an interview with Nina Turner coming up in a bit. So if you're feeling super, leave it in the super chat. Now, this part I really liked. Let me play this.
On February 20th, 1939, over 20,000 Nazis held a mass rally. Not in Berlin, not in Rome, but in Madison Square Garden, in front of a 30-foot banner of George Washington bordered with swastikas in New York City. New York City. But back then, those American extremists could not replicate the success of their authoritarian brethren across the ocean. Because we in the United States, thank God, made a different choice than Europe did in responding to the era's social and economic crises. We rejected the ideology of Mussolini and Hitler, and we instead embraced the bold and visionary leadership of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, then the leader of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Together with organized labor, leaders in the African American community, and progressives inside and outside the Democratic Party, Roosevelt led a transformation of the American government and the American economy. Like today, the quest for transformative change was opposed by big business, by Wall Street, by the political establishment, by the Republican Party, and by the conservative wing of FDR's own Democratic Party. And he faced the same scare tactics then that we experience today. Red baiting, xenophobia, racism, and anti-Semitism. In a famous 1936 campaign speech, Roosevelt stated, and I quote, "We had to struggle with the old enemies of peace, business and financial monopoly, speculation, reckless banking, class antagonism, sectionalism, war, profiteering. They had begun to consider the government of the United States as a mere appendage to their own affairs. We know now that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob."
I absolutely loved that part. As a FDR enthusiast myself, tell you the truth, I wish you would have talked more like this in 2016, but let's not look in the rearview mirror. This is what Bernie Sanders needs to be talking about and how he needs to be talking about. Because when the Democratic Party, when the Republican Party, when the corporate media, which is basically just a public relations firm for the Democratic Party and the government, when they try to make socialism a boogeyman word, they're successful because the truth is there has not been the communication and the execution on communicating the fact that socialism is what FDR did. Socialism is the New Deal. Socialism created the economic equality and success of the 1950s and 60s, which any objective person will say was two of the best economic decades in American history. Sure, the World War II boom certainly helped, but the New Deal programs helped. Government regulations helped. Progressive economic taxation helped. Government jobs programs helped. These were all tenets of socialism. And these are all the same exact things that the corporate, I don't want to just say the corporate media, but the corporate media military industrial complex, that's right, the corporate media military industrial complex has made these things seem socialist. This is what Bernie Sanders is talking about. He brought up an economic bill of rights, affordable housing, a quality education, a secure retirement, healthcare, a clean environment, a decent job that pays a living wage. I mean, this is hardly Joseph Stalin level communism. But this is what, if you watch CNN's reaction to Bernie's speech, when you see idiots like Edward Isaac Dover from The Atlantic, this is what they're trying to smear. This is what they're trying to spin Bernie Sanders' program, which honestly, to the letter of the actual definition, it's not even full-blown socialism. He's not talking about getting rid of the capitalist system. He's really talking about regulating the capitalist system. But let me tell you something. Those messages that Bernie Sanders is talking about and getting rid of this gilded age and this oligarchy, it's kind of popular, not just among Democrats, but among Republicans. Want to know why? Because even Republicans are against bailouts for Wall Street. Even Republicans are against endless subsidies to ExxonMobil and Goldman Sachs and Pfizer and Facebook. They are. I mean, the polling shows that progressives and conservatives both agree higher taxes on the rich. We need more government investment in jobs. Higher taxes, period. Republicans, by a majority now, favor Medicare for all. So I think what Bernie Sanders did well was basically, this isn't a word, I'm making it up, is de-boogerize. Make how they're trying to make socialism a boogeyman word. Bernie Sanders really explained, no, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm just talking about the New Deal. I'm just kind of borrowing from FDR.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.